Really nice. Thomas is actually a very good friend of mine, so I'm going to introduce him with what he wrote down. I'm not going to tell you what I know. Thomas spent all his business career in the oilseed and vegetable oil markets, analyzing and forecasting global production, trade, consumption, and price developments. Tom's first visit to the USA was in the mid-70s, when he visited the CBOT, which at that time was much different than today, and spent several weeks in rural America and among Oil Word subscribers with the U.S. production and processing industries, livestock producers, traders, and export facilities to get some basic understanding of the fundamentals of our markets. Thomas developed his expertise and understanding of soybeans and products worldwide, as well as palm and lauric oils, the sunflower and rapeseed complexes, and other oils, fats, and oil meals. Thomas followed in the footsteps of his late father, Siegfried Mielke, who founded Oil World in the year 1958. Today, Oil World is recognized as a leading independent, authoritative, and unbiased information provider with subscribers in almost 100 countries. Oil World is still a family-owned company. Neither the directors nor anyone of the Oil World staff is allowed to take positions in the market, thus guaranteeing independent and unbiased forecasts. I can also tell you from my personal knowledge of Thomas, and after many, many dinners with him over the years, he loves to argue. So if he's in the middle of his presentation and he says something that you don't think is quite right, I would really hope that you get up and go to one of the microphones on the side of the room here and let him know what you think, because that's one of the things he enjoys more than almost anything else, is people disagreeing with him. So with that, Thomas, you want to get started? And was that introduction acceptable or no?
Yeah, thank you very much, Liam. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. So I'm on, yeah, I can start. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, you're on.
Can you hear me
Wall to wall,
well?
buddy, wall to wall.
Good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry, of course, that I cannot be with you in person as I did a couple of years ago. But I will do my best and try to bring my message to you via Zoom today. What a change in market conditions over the past 12 months. At this time last year, the markets were in recession. The shock of COVID, prices of agricultural products and energy under pressure. Today, prices sharply higher, partly due to weather and lower production all over the world, partly due to larger than expected consumption in the energy market. What is the situation today? Weather problems in major producing countries have reduced production to a level where satisfaction of demand it has become difficult. In the current season, we are facing the second consecutive global production deficit of oilseeds. At the moment, in the current season, we are facing an unprecedented situation of a simultaneous decline in world production of the 4 major vegetable oils, plus lower than expected lauric oils. So we had significant production losses all over the world. For the first time, world trade of all oils and fats is declining this season again for the second consecutive year, despite COVID-related lockdowns and reduced consumption in restaurants, hotels, and so on. World stocks are declining to critically low levels, and stocks are going to decline further in the current season. Prices have already doubled or more than doubled and reached multi-year lows. Has the current situation been discounted in prices already, or are we going to move further up before prices decline? And we can look at the major fundamentals in the coming 45 minutes, if I may. Are we close to the highs? Or is it likely that prices will move higher before they come down? These high prices, I'm sure, are not sustainable. But the big question is how severe is the tightness and how long are we going to face similarly high prices? Now, I will try to share my screen here. I hope it works. So give me a few seconds to share with you some slides. Oh, this is, I think we should start from the beginning, not from the end. Sorry for that. So, edible oil prices have been much stronger than oil meal prices. And we probably, most of you know, we calculate an edible oil price index. This has moved up sharply, as you can see here, from April to an 8-year high of 170. And this 170 means that last Friday, March 11, the weighted average of edible oil prices was 70% above the 5-year average, 2015 to 2019. A huge increase. Meal prices rallied October, November, December, but meal prices are on their way down. And there are fundamental reasons for this. The meal tightness can be solved, and the market is on its way to solve the meal tightness, but solving the vegetable oil tightness is a longer and more difficult process, particularly in the current situation in which the dynamics of the palm oil market have been lost. Palm oil has apparently started a new era of below average growth. And this is something we have to watch carefully, because without palm oil growth, the global market of oils and fats look different. Now, here I compare the prices of key commodities between the beginning of August and last Friday. Big increases of 50% in soybeans. Soya meal, relatively moderate, 26% growth. Argentine soybean oil export market, $1,250, an increase of 60%. But the real driver is sun oil, with more than doubling of the prices to $1,700 last Friday. It appears that there is no end to a further increase, but I disagree. I think sun oil has moved too far, and I don't think that this 1,700 or 1,730 is sustainable. Also, palm oil moved up very sharply, palm kernel oil, coconut oil, and other commodities. Where are we going from here? To what extent are the bullish factors already discounted in current prices? Now, soybean oil has even moved higher relative to Indonesian palm oil. And this is partly due to sunflower oil. It is partly due to declining export supplies of Brazil. It is partly due to the fact that at the moment it is difficult to satisfy world import requirements. Indonesian palm oil has more than doubled since the low of $500 last May, the highest in almost 9 years. Still, and I think this is important to recognize, still palm oil usage in biodiesel is high. The rationing we expected at higher prices, the rationing of palm oil usage, soybean oil usage, and usage of other oils and fats in energy has not occurred, at least not in many countries. And this has added to the tightness in the oils and fats balance. So for the first time this season, for the first time, there is a simultaneous tightness for all the 6 major vegetable oils. It started with palm oil in the middle of last year. Palm oil production, and we can see this here, January, March, palm oil production in January, March 2020 declined by 2.4 million tons. Production was again relatively low in the April-June quarter, similar to a year ago, and remained below expectations in July, September, and again in October, December 2020. Palm oil production last year was much lower than expected in Malaysia and in Indonesia. Palm oil stocks fell to multi-year lows, and this occurred despite corona-related consumption losses primarily in India. And this is very surprising. And we should look into this more closely and probably discuss this later if you want. What is the outlook for palm oil out of the current situation? And can we expect similar big increases as we have seen in the past for 2021 and 2022? And what happens in palm oil is very important for the total market of oils and fats, because palm oil today accounts for approximately 1/3 of world production of 17 oils and fats, and soya oil follows with a distance with only 25%. So palm oil is a big elephant, and this elephant has lost its dynamics, its production dynamics. As you can see here in the slide, we expect a recovery in the current season, but it does not bring us back to the production level of 2 years ago. And this is alarming, and this has never happened before. So palm oil has lost its growth dynamics, and we assume that in the next 5 to 10 years, the palm oil growth, the palm oil production growth will slow by 20 to 25%, probably more. Very critical situation, particularly if we look at the biofuel targets, green energy targets in the US and in other countries. Where should the feedstock come from? So in summary, for the palm, contrary to 2015-16, when we also had a setback in palm oil production, and when in 16-17 production exploded with an increase of more than 8 million tons, we now expect only a moderate growth of 3.2, 3.4 million ton in the current season. This is bullish, and we have experienced lower than expected production in both Indonesia and Malaysia in October, March, the first half of this season, and this contributed to the additional price rally we have seen in February. The supply, which is so much needed, the additional supply did not come from palm. And statistically, so we have lower opening stocks, down 2.5 million tons, an increase in production by 3.2, leaving only a supply growth in the world of 0.7 million tons. This is nothing. And this is a dilemma. How can we satisfy world demand for energy, for chemical industry, for the feed industry, and in particular for the food industry, if palm oil does not come back on track? So we have issues like labor shortage, production losses in the fields. These production losses are significant. Harvesting is not done in a timely manner, so there is a lot of fresh fruit bunches being harvested too late. Some of it is not even picked up at all. Some of it is deteriorating in quality, higher refining costs, higher FFA. We have lack of replantings. We have weather issues, still some impacts from the drought of 2019 in production and the availability of fresh fruit bunches in January, June this year. So several issues, aging of the trees, and
Thomas,
yes?
can you hear me? Sorry, it's
Yes.
Liam Rogers. Can you just briefly go into how the sustainability issue is affecting this reduction in rate of palm oil growth?
This is a very good point, Liam. Thank you for saying this. Expansion of palm into new palm oil area has slowed down considerably. And this has to do with the sustainability criteria. As a plantation, the land you can use for expansion of plantings is much smaller today than it was 10 years and 15 years ago. Second, governments have been under pressure in Indonesia, Malaysia, and elsewhere to restrict the licensing of new land. On top of that, there is a lot of pressure on companies which are in palm oil to reduce their investment because of environmental issues. So this is this problem we have in palm, and I have a slide at the end. So you have to stay, right? At the end, there is a slide showing the development of the mature area. This is very alarming, and with the growth in mature area declining sizably, it's no wonder that the growth in palm oil production is slowing down. Does this answer your question, Liam?
Yes, thank you very much.
Good. And by the way, Malaysian palm oil yields in October, February have fallen to their lowest level on average in more than 20 years, as a combination of several issues, with labor shortage one issue, but also lack of replanting and many other issues, including management issues. There is one silver lining on the horizon, that the current high prices and the labor shortage are apparently resulting in rising investments in mechanization at several plantations in Malaysia. This will take time, and this is not going to be solved next year. But with the very attractive prices now, we see some movement in optimizing. Yeah, but this doesn't change this negative trend, and this doesn't change what I said. Palm oil has lost its growth dynamics, and this is going to have major impacts on the global market of oils and fats and on the oil share. And what we see now with the oil share in Chicago, this is one result. It has several other reasons, but this is one result. This growth, this lacking growth in palm oil. Yeah? And I talk about growth, but actually at the moment, palm oil is in tight supply, and it is difficult for some people to cover their requirements. And we can take it up later. We have started early, so we can have a long discussion if you like. The second blow comes from sunflower, and we were hesitant in last September, October, but more and more we realize that the effects of the drought in the Black Sea region was very severe. Now, today, we think that world production of sunflower seed has dropped by 5.5 million tons. This is a lot. This is 10%. World production of sun oil, also because of a lower oil content, world production of sun oil this season is down 3 million. Yeah. So this is a big problem. And the rationing so far has been insufficient. So prices are going through the roof. And this is, you can see this here in the blue line, sun oil, Black Sea, 1,700. And the premium over soybean oil, 450. We have to go back, I think it's 2008. There was 1 year which is in a similar situation. But this is very unusual, a premium of $450. Now, the big question is, how much product is still kept behind? And I don't know this. I mean, who is still sitting on his sunseed saying, oh, I sell next month? And people become greedy, and you know, this is also always the case. So no, I wait with my selling. Will there be too much sunflower seed trying to find a market after May or after June, or when edible oil prices start declining? Will we then see a selling wave? I would not rule this out. I still have a feeling, and it's not more than a feeling because the numbers are not available, that sun oil prices have overshot. And I would probably just buy hand to mouth what I just need, and hope that weakening prices on the futures market, fund selling, and probably some weakening in palm and soya from the April-June quarter will also bring down sunflower oil prices. But at the moment, very little selling out of Russia. The Russian government is probably introducing an export tax. And this export tax makes the crushers very hesitant to sell. So we have even an artificial shortage at the moment because nobody knows what the government is going to do. So prices are going through the roof. And consumers at the moment are switching the flexible demand, the demand outside the hardcore demand is shifting into soya oil, and this has raised soya oil prices, and this is now raising Argentine soybean crushings sizably, because everybody tries to escape these high prices unless he has to buy. Yeah, sunflower seed, and we can discuss it if you like. We can discuss it later. Third blow came from rapeseed. Rapeseed is in a declining trend for over the past 8 years or so. And this declining trend is slightly interrupted this season with a moderate recovery, but overall stocks are tight. Canadian stocks are going to be minimum at the end of July. We are reducing stocks in Europe. China continues to buy. In Canada, even in Europe, more than 200,000 tons of rapeseed oil purchased in Europe in February, which is surprising. So Chinese buying has contributed to the to the price increase we have seen in rapeseed oil. Prospects point to a recovery in the years ahead with the developments in palm oil. I think there is going to be higher demand for high oil yielding oilseeds, sunflower and rapeseed. We should see this partly next season and also in 2022-23. Improving production prospects because of price incentives in the years ahead. Fourth blow came in soybeans. Within 5 months, the global soybean balance turned from surplus to tightness, downward revisions, weather-caused downward revisions in the US, India, Argentina, Brazil. All crops were damaged. This is very unusual. I cannot remember a situation where we had so many different weather issues all over the place at the same time. And this is the reason why world production will again fall short of consumption in 2020-21 for the second consecutive year. The global production deficit last season in all oilseeds was 15 million tons. This season, it's 12 million according to our estimates, but we may be still overestimating the South American crops. At the moment, we expect South American soybean production to decline. Our Brazilian crop estimate is 131. I think USDA is at 134. Today, I would not be surprised to have the crop down to 129. We received new damage estimates during the past 2 days from Zuriso, the major soybean area where yields are down more than 20%. Argentina got some good rainfall over the weekend. Still, the 44 million tons for Argentina is probably still too high. Even if we lose another 2 or 3 million tons or 4 million tons in South America, I don't think that the world will have a problem in satisfying soybean requirements for March, August, and provide sufficient supplies until the new US crop comes in September. We will need an early crop and we need weather to cooperate, but with plantings going on from fence to fence, we could see, I think we should see plantings of soybeans, corn and other crops to rise by 4.5 to 5 million hectares in the US from last year's reduced level. So I expect a real big recovery, weather permitting, in the US. So on the one hand, we had a lot of weather problems and weather issues and logistical issues, delayed harvesting, delayed exports. It's still raining today, but the rain is slowing down. But all these problems have resulted in higher prices, which we have seen in the past few weeks. But now it should normalize. We should get a big export number out of South America in March, and the exports are now shifting over to South America. We do have enough beans. Farmers have started to sell in Argentina. No wonder at the current attractive prices. They have almost 13 million tons of old crop soybeans carried over into the new season. So Argentina has enough soybeans. So soybean supplies is okay. The bullishness comes from the tightness of the oils and fats balance and the need to crush more soybeans to satisfy oil demand. US front-loaded soybean disposals, as you know. Now for the second half of this season, we are going to see exports plummeting, soybean exports plummeting out of the US. Premiums will rise. The US will import soybeans and sharply reduce exports, and I also expect smaller crushings. So I think the market will take care of itself, and world import requirements are going to be satisfied out of South America in March, August. Still, US stocks at a 7-year low, and world oilseed stocks, world soybean stocks at a 5-year low in the current season. These are our estimates. 89 million tons world stocks at the end of this season, a 5-year low, US 3.2 minimum or even less than minimum, but still reasonable supplies in South America. And of course in China. China is going to continue to build reserve stocks. The big question is, what level of reserve stocks will be considered comfortable by the Chinese government? At the moment, we assume Chinese imports of 101 million tons in the current season, and this will result in a further increase in stocks of 3 to 4 million tons in China. So China could be a swing factor to watch, and it is not unlikely that China will temporarily reduce imports at the end of this season and wait for lower priced new crop soybean supplies from September onward. So this is something we have to watch. As a carry-on message, world soybean crushings are healthy. 10 to 11 million ton growth in the current season because of oil. But of course, soybeans cannot solve an oil shortage without creating a surplus in meal. We know this from the past. We have an increasing global dependence on soybean meal, yes. But at the moment, there are problems in Argentina to get rid of the rising production of soybean meal, and this has created weakness in soybean meal prices. On a world basis, we expect a slowing down of the growth in world consumption of soybean meal and tight supplies in all other oil meals. Yeah? So soybean, the market share of soybean is continuing to rise. In China, we expect soybean meal consumption to rise by about 6 million tons. China is the growth leader, no doubt. The pork sector has recovered significantly, although we are not back to the normal situation in pork numbers. But meal demand is back, and particularly since commercial feeding is now being propagated by the government, soybean meal demand and feed grain demand is rising sharply in China. So this is a very important development. China needs more protein. This is something we should keep an eye on also for the next couple of years. However, we still have cycles and we still have swings, and these swings are so important because these swings are creating the price changes. And for example, in January and February, soybean meal usage in China fell short of expectations. Rising meal stocks, disease problems in the pork industry, lower meal prices, deteriorating crush margins, and soybean crushings lower than expected. And we see this in domestic prices. Soya meal prices are trending down in China, corn prices are down, and on the other hand, On the other hand, the soya oil price, the palm oil price going higher. Yeah, very strong demand, very strong Chinese demand for oils and fats, keeping prices high and keeping imports. Lauric oils. Coconut oil prices have more than doubled during the past 10 months. We are awaiting the arrival of a turnaround. This turnaround in the production cycle was interrupted or delayed by the arrival of 2 major typhoons and considerable damage. A lot of the trees have been damaged, more or less sizably. Still, we now expect for the second half of this year a recovery in production and larger coconut oil production, which together with seasonally increasing palm kernel oil production could result in declining prices of lauric oils. So the lauric oils are probably also a candidate for hand-to-mouth buying because of the likelihood of weakening prices in the second half of this year. Coconut oil prices relative to palm kernel oil, in my opinion, should weaken in the course of this year. So, concluding statements. Soybean crushings are now increasingly driven by soya oil demand. I mentioned this in Argentina. Argentina is facing a rush of purchases from all over the world, from consumers who want to replace sunflower oil. Argentine soya oil exports very high in February, March, and April. Crushings higher than expected, but difficulties in selling the meal. Meal stocks are rising. Crushers are giving concessions in meal to find buyers. Yeah? Farmers are good sellers. There is no shortage of soybeans at the crushing plants at the moment. Better than expected processing. So meal demand, so meal prices trending lower. Also, the now seasonally increasing South American crushings are contributing to this development. On the other hand, soybean oil is pulled up by rallying sun oil prices, very clearly. The oil share is rising. Chicago, May position beyond 40%. I think it is very likely that we see higher oil share in the near to medium term. I just don't see fundamentally that sufficient supplies come from palm and rapeseed. So it must be soybean oil which has to produce and has to cover a larger share of world import requirements. Higher oil share. This is a summary of our analysis we did last week in our monthly, and of course we have details for all the individual 17 oils and fats. I'm not talking about cotton oil or groundnut oil or olive oil, fish oil. So please contact me if you need details for the individual commodities or countries. Just a summary. First, we have started the current season with low stocks, 30.9 million tons, low stocks. The growth in production in the current season is again below average. We are just looking at an increase of 1.8% after last season. We have seen a decline of 0.8%. This is very small, a very small growth. Second, trade world trade in oils and fats is shrinking, very unusual. In 2 consecutive years, we now expect a decline in trade, in exports and imports. And it's mainly reduced export supplies, making it difficult for the importing countries to cover their requirements. And here you have one reason for the rallying market we have seen. Third, consumption. Consumption growth is small. Last year, we had just a stagnation, which never happened before. No growth in world consumption last season. And this season, only a very moderate increase. And although growth in consumption is small, the world is going to continue to reduce stocks for another year. So the stocks usage ratio continues to decline. So all this is a very bullish scenario, but of course the big question is how much is discounted? And a lot, if not all, is discounted. Yeah. But it's a critical situation, and world stocks need to be replenished to more comfortable levels, but this will take time, and it cannot be done without palm oil. And it is very difficult to accomplish a recovery in world stocks with only a slow growth in palm oil production. Consumption.
Thomas?
Yes?
Mike Rath with Darling Ingredients. I have a question or two for you before we go too farther. It goes back to your slide about China and their rebuilding of the swine herd. If you could dive into a little more detail on how you see that. And then secondly, what's the effect of palm oil consumption from China because of that, from your perspective?
Yes, very good point. Let me just get my Chinese balance sheet. Hold on.
Thank you.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is the advantage of being in the office. Now we actually expect in the current season that pork production in China is going to rise by almost 7 million tons. Season. I'm looking at October, September. 45.7 million tons. And I can send you the details if you please be so kind and send me an email. I send you the details which we have also for poultry and beef and so on. So this is significant, huh? 6 to 7 million tons increase in pork production. This creates, of course, a higher production of animal fat. And for lard, we expect production to recover by 450,000 tons. This is something like 13% or so, or 12% in lard production. And I assume that this will directly impact palm oil, because palm oil filled the gap in the gap which was created by the decline in lard production by about 1 million tons in the past 2 seasons. Now lard is coming back, and about half, almost half of the decline is now coming back, and this is the reason why we expect that Chinese palm oil consumption will decline. Actually, we expect a decline by 0.5 million tons in Chinese palm consumption. Yeah. Stocks were low at the start of this season, contrary to a year ago. So the decline in imports is more moderate, but consumption of palm is declining in China. And this helps the global market a little bit to digest or to react to the tightness in palm oil. Does this answer your question, sir?
It does, thank you. I just would ask if that pork production is up 7 million metric tons, how does that compare to pork production pre-ASF in China? Is it equivalent or still?
No,
below?
no. We had 55 million tons production in October, September 2017, 18, 55 million tons. Then we went down to 47.4 million tons, 47.4 million tons in 2018-19, and we had a low of 39.1 million tons last season. So we are not back yet, but of course there's always a lag. The recovery in pork numbers, the recovery in pig numbers is further ahead. But of course the recovery in this determines the feed requirements, the oil meal requirements, the number of pigs. But the recovery in pork production, of course, is delayed by what should I say, 10 months or 12 months. So you may think that considering the current strong demand for meal, the pork production I have mentioned is a little bit underreported, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question. I will follow up with an email. Thank you. I believe there's another question. Hang on one second.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you very much. This is Tom Papa-Stephan with Futures International. I just wanted to check. I thought I heard you say that you had U.S. production area up by 4.5 to 5 million hectares this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking. Yeah, I'm not so good with acres, so I apologize. Now we are looking, and I was talking about oilseeds and grains. We are looking at a total planted area of 107 million hectares. 107 million hectares for oilseeds and grains, out of which 36.2 million hectares is soybeans. Last year we had 102.1 million hectares. So this is an increase of almost 5 million hectares. Okay, yeah. 102.1 million. We had prevented acres, as you know, out of which soybeans 33.6. And I apologize if I was not clear. I was talking about all oilseeds and grains.
That clears it up for me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Okay. Shall I continue?
This is Chad Dolander with Colonial Terminal, Savannah, Georgia. I've got a sustainability question around palm. Due to our location in Savannah, we've stored and handled, forest products for a lot of years, wood pellets, wood chips, et cetera. And that industry, from a sustainability standpoint, is very sound and has been for years. Just curious, from a novice on the sustainability issues around palm, how come it's not just a replant, kind of similar to like the forest industry in the U.S. Is my first question. And then do you have any insight on kind of how that process is evolving from a sustainability standpoint on the palm in Indonesia, Malaysia? Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, let me say that in my opinion, palm oil has the strictest sustainability criteria of all oilseeds, vegetable oils. Better than rapeseed, canola, and in my opinion, also better than soybeans. I know that I'm talking to a U.S. group, but I give you my opinion. I think they have the strictest criteria. But I think we have the issue that scientific arguments do not count when it comes to emotional debates. And palm oil has been a candidate for emotional debates by people who don't understand and who cannot understand this complicated global market of oils and fats, and alternatives. If global pressure from consumers, pressure from governments, if they reduce palm oil production and the production is being shifted to soybean areas or rapeseed or sunflower areas elsewhere in the world, the environmental impact would be more severe in general. So probably that's enough. That's all I want to say. It's very complex, and I also wonder why palm oil has been put in the corner as a bad crop and others don't. Yeah.
Thomas, another question, if I may?
Sure. Yeah, you asked Liam how much time we have, but I have time. Pleasure.
John Lynch from Flat Earth Risk Management. First, I'd like to thank you for an excellent synopsis and overview of the situation.
I'm not ready yet. You know this. I'm not ready yet. There's more to come.
Okay, good. So I was intrigued by your comments about, the concerns you have over the productivity or growth of palm oil production going forward. I'm just wondering, with the period of low prices before the last year or year and a half so, and of course the labor shortages that have besieged the industry, is there a chance that, now that we're back at high prices and if we get out of the pandemic, that maybe this was just sort of a false signal and palm oil production will continue? Or do you think that that's, we're still going to see a decline?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Very good question. Several issues here. First, the labor issue is not the reason for the problem in palm oil. It is one reason, and the production losses in the fields, which are significant, probably 10% in some cases, have aggravated the shortage. But it's not the only reason for the problem. Can it be solved? Yes, the government can change the immigration law. The government may on a short-term basis allow immigrant workers to come into Malaysia again. Despite the pandemic, there are solutions to do this. We have similar problems with foreign labor in our agriculture in Europe or in Germany. So this is possible. But just imagine next month the Malaysian government would liberalize immigration of workers. It would take at least 2 or 3 months to hire the workers and bring them into Malaysia. Then they have to be trained. So it would be a good signal, but the immediate impact on actual production would be very minimal in the short term, and production losses will continue, at least for the next 2, 3 months, 4 months. The production problems in palm are more fundamental. Lack of suitable area and changed government policies in licensing new area, plus lack of replanting. And the lack of replanting, you should understand, is mainly in the smallholder sector. So there's 40% of the land in Indonesia which is smallholders, 38% in Malaysia. These smallholders have big difficulties in replanting, because when they replant, they have to replant 100% because the land is so small. But then they have no income for the next 3.5 years. So we can ask the question whether the whole concept of smallholders, which was very nice from the beginning, now breaks together because this issue of replanting, which is crucial for an industry after 30 years or after 25 years, you have to replant. And if this replanting cannot be done, then you have a big social problem also. So very complex, nothing quick. If we talk about quick solutions, and this is what I want to talk in the last few minutes I have, quick responses we see in the US, in Canada, in other countries with an increase in oilseed plantings this spring. And the industry is ready, and we could see a big recovery in new crop production, sunflower, soya in particular, to some extent rapeseed, canola. Yeah. So let me, Liam, if you allow, let me complete my last slides, and then we resume discussion. Is that fine? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can, Thomas. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. We have time.
Thomas, your slide.
So I think I covered this. So just briefly, again, we understand palm oil, the importance of palm oil,
Thomas,
and the recovery in palm oil exports in the current season is well below what was exported 2 years ago.
Thomas, if you can't hear me, your slides are not up.
What?
Looks
Can
like
you see the slides?
No, we can't see your slides. Are you still sharing your screen?
Thomas, we cannot see the slides.
Yeah.
We can see you.
Yeah. Part of me, huh? Okay. I think now we are back again, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry for this. I have to learn. Good. So exports of palm oil. You look at the blue line. Recovery this season, but we are not back to the export volume of 2 years ago. Malaysian exports are going to decline because of insufficient supply, and the global market needs 2 million tons of increase of Malaysian palm oil. The big question here is, will Indonesia produce enough palm oil to satisfy B30 biodiesel, and at the same time increase exports by 2 million tons? If not, then we would most likely see a further increase in palm oil prices. Unless the Indonesian government decides to make a temporary reduction of the biodiesel mandate to ease the situation. This is something which could happen anytime. My contacts in Indonesia say that this is not likely, but it's a government decision and it cannot be forecasted really. So this would be one of the big bearish elements that a country like Indonesia temporarily reduces the biodiesel mandate, and this would have a bearish impact on prices immediately. If not, we could be in a dilemma of satisfying both energy demand and food demand, because despite soybean oil increase, the combined exports, world exports of soya oil, rapeseed, canola oil, and sunflower oil is declining by about 2 million tons in the current season. Yeah. So it's dependence on Indonesia. Malaysia is down. All the other countries, except Argentina, probably cannot help sufficiently. Stocks usage ratio, and I'm approaching the end now. Stocks usage ratio continues to decline. Look at the red line, which is all oils and fats, a multi-year low, very critical situation, but this is known. I think this is discounted in the price, and we need new bullish factors to support the current bull move, or prices start weakening. Uncertainty, I mentioned this already, what's going to happen in biodiesel policy in Indonesia, just to understand where we are. We look at the gas oil price here, diesel price in Europe, and the Rotterdam price in blue of crude palm oil. It's double. The palm oil price is $600 above gas oil. So we assume that some kind of rationing is happening here in Europe, but we just don't know how much. Very difficult. On the other hand, biodiesel producers, some of them have a good margin. So they pass these higher prices on to the consumer. Still, this is one of the uncertainties. What happens particularly in Indonesia? Malaysia has already cut back. Argentina has cut back because of price. And the drivers at the moment are Indonesia, the US, and Brazil. So let us look at the deferred prices. And let's take soybean oil. Soybean oil Argentina. For May is very well supported. 2000, these are the prices of last Friday. We have a discount, a moderate discount for June, July, and another moderate discount for August, September. Soybean oil is well supported in the deferreds. Palm olein prices, however, palm olein prices are under pressure in the deferreds. For May, June, June, we are down $145 from nearby. July, September, $935. I personally think that the palm oil prices in the deferreds are a little bit too weak. I don't see that we will reach this. There is upward potential for the deferred positions from current prices. But I think the direction is correct. We are likely to going to see downward pressure, some moderate downward pressure in vegetable oil prices, which could start anytime in April, June. Although I don't know where the peak is. I don't know whether we have seen the peak or whether we are going to peak at the end of March or in April. Depends on the outcome of several uncertainties. But in my opinion, it is likely that there will be downward pressure starting sometime in April, June, partly because of new crop fundamentals, which are not physically available yet, but like US planting progress, if weather is favorable, if US plantings do have a favorable start, this could already affect prices in the old crop positions. So we have, and this is almost the end of my presentation now, we have uncertainties like the weather, Chinese policies. What will China do? What level of reserve stocks is considered comfortable by the government? We don't know. We don't know. China has purchased whatever they could get, and they purchased a lot when prices were still reasonably low a couple of months ago. And everything, not only grains and soybeans, but canola, rapeseed oil in Europe, groundnut oil, palm oil. They imported a lot of palm oil in January, February. We were surprised to see these large volumes despite the improving lard supplies. So China is building up not only reserve stocks in soybeans and probably also grains, but also in edible oils, primarily in soybean oil. To some extent, I assume also in rapeseed oil, but not in palm oil. Then we have government decisions, uncertainties. Governments apply export restrictions, like the Russian government, and there will be more restrictions to come, very likely, and other countries to curb domestic food price inflation. And they do this, although this is not helping the market to come out of this tightness, because this kind of export restrictions or export taxes are a disincentive for producers to expand. Impact of current high prices, also a factor we should watch. These prices are so high that it's very likely that edible oil consumption will be affected in many developing countries, and we are probably overestimating consumption in Pakistan, in India, in several African countries because of these high prices. On the other hand, governments are under pressure to reduce import duties. Quite sure farmers will increase plantings and investments into seed quality, into pesticides, fertilizers, crop protective measures for next season to benefit from the current prices. And hopefully they start selling ahead already now to lock in the attractive prices. I expect that prices stay elevated and above average throughout 2021, but weaken from current levels. If world production of 10 oilseeds rebounds next season, and this is what I expect, basis higher plantings and the assumption of normal to favorable weather. And this assumption, we should make this assumption at this stage. So we assume that next season, we are going to face a global production surplus in oilseeds. We expect world production of soybeans to rise to 359 million tons. Of course, this is a very tentative forecast. US crop recovering up 9 million tons. For Brazil, up 7 million. Argentina, probably 50. Rapeseed and canola, slight increase only. The European crop is winter grown and is again turning out lower than expected, but higher crop in Canada. We also see further expansion in Australia and larger crop in Australia and in other countries. So some moderate increase in rape, a big increase, probably 6 million tons with normal weather in sunflower. Russian, Ukraine farmers, they are boosting sunflower seed. They reduce wheat because of the wheat export tax. So we expect a recovery in oilseed stocks in 2021-22. We expect that there will be some moderate downward pressure from favorable new crop outlook already in the old crop season, April, June, July, August, before these crops become physically available. However, the vegetable oil stock recovery may take longer, considerably longer, if the palm oil growth is low in 2021-22. And this is my last slide. Just look at the red part here with the slowing down of the growth in the mature area from 1.6 million hectare growth back in 2017. We are now below 500, and this 450,000 hectare, which we are currently assuming, is probably optimistic. In Malaysia last year, it was the first year in which the mature area and oil palm declined. Declined. But the increases are in Indonesia, in Central America, and some other countries, but of course mainly in Indonesia, in Africa. Yeah. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I think I took a little bit longer. I apologize for this, and I would be happy to take your questions either now or if you send me an email. So I try to come back with my face.
Thomas, Mike,
Yeah.
Darling, one last question. You mentioned, I believe it was Malaysia and Argentina, the biodiesel percentage going down. Do you know what you figured in, how much they decreased from what to what on a percentage basis?
Argentina biodiesel.
Malaysia.
In Malaysia, yes, Argentine biodiesel and Malaysia biodiesel. I think you mentioned they were going down in consumption.
Yes.
You can send it to me. I'll send you an email if you don't recall.
Please do. And I say something out of my head. For Malaysia, we assume a decline of about 0.3 million tons in the current year. Lower domestic consumption because of price, and also lower exports. In Argentina, domestic consumption was down 90%, 90% in November, December. It was just 10,000 tons compared to the mandate of 100,000 tons per month, because the government did not revise the domestic prices, and biodiesel producers just didn't make any money, and it's mainly the small producers, and they closed down. Now we are back. There has been a change in the prices, and we are probably back, but only we are back probably to 40,000 tons, 35 to 40,000 tons. So consumption is still way down from what it should be. Exports picked up, but we are still not at last year's level in January, March. Yeah, but if you need more numbers, please let me know.
Thomas, this is Lee. I just wanted to ask, and for the benefit of the group, will I be able to share your slides that you used today with the attendees?
What I would like to do, I send you the real PDF.
Okay, yes, sir.
You may have taken photos or so, but I send you the real PDF, and you can distribute this to the attendees. Of course you can.
Okay, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Any
more questions for Thomas?
And you can also feel free to contact me during the year. We would like to be of service, and as we are taking no positions in the market, being of service is the only thing we do. So please let me know if we can be of help.
Well, Thomas, this is Liam again. Thank you very much. As always, information-packed and very clear. Thanks very much for your presentation, and thank you for making it available to the membership. We really appreciate it. And I'm personally sorry you're not here, but we'll see each other again soon.
Thank you very much. All the best. Have a good conference.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, everybody. We're going to take a short break, which is, oh, you know what? I was